Hey you guys, so this is going to be a really quick video. I definitely didn't want to leave you hanging. I know I didn't post anything last week. I've not forgotten about my channel. I've not gotten too busy. It's just that last week was an intense week. So I've been heavily focusing on my mindset, and that focus really intensified last week. It was as if I unlocked a new level or something with a whole new set of challenges. So I discovered, and this is something that I've actually been in prayer about, and I felt like it was revealed to me last week. First, let me back up and give you the context. So, I don't know if you've ever felt like you're stuck or like you keep having the same issue, like you're doing okay, you're doing great, even, and then the same issue arises again and again, like you're okay, that same issue crops up, then you have another stint of being okay, the issue crops up again. So I kind of have been going through something similar to that, although I dare not compare what's going on now to what went on a couple years ago, but basically business related. Someone that I have been working with for years, doing business with for years, kind of did something that was unreliable. Like they told me one thing and I made plans for that one thing, and then that thing didn't happen, and it left me kind of in a bad situation, like having to scramble. And one of those things where I would have planned and done things differently if I have known that plans had changed on kind of on that person's end, really something that wasn't within his control. But the part that was within this person's control was being communicative and telling me that third party that was involved in the transaction was having some issues and they couldn't really uphold their end of the transaction. So that affected me and this other person. All I'm saying is, if I would have known back when the person that I do business with directly knew that there was an issue with the third party, I could have planned things differently. So anyway, that caused like a lot of whatever, just, I don't want to say stress, because I didn't get as stressed out this time as I have in the past when things like this arise with my business, but it caused like a lot of frustration, discomfort, inconvenience for sure. So anyway, that went on, and I feel like that uncovered a lot of things, untruths, negativity that was in my subconscious mind that I just didn't really realize. So I'd been seeing the symptoms, and I'll describe it as, let's say, kind of like a passive anxiety, a passive anxiousness, like a sense of feeling threatened, a sense of feeling, I think maybe I did reference it in another video partially. So if you watch my videos, like the one about keto and anxiety, I mentioned like randomly feeling like this sort of thing, like a surge come over me, like a wave of anxiety. And it's kind of that, but so like the strong wave, not strong, but like the stronger wave, like the more definitive, distinct wave, I think probably was a result of just the changes that dropping sugar from my diet has created. Now that I think about it, I've been having them like the past couple days, let's say, but I think they've lessened, which is good. But there was also kind of this lingering anxiety, like it very much in the background. I want to say it's subtle, but to me it's kind of like harsh. Like it's like kind of like a negative, like negative thoughts, let's say, almost like negative self-talk, but I know that it's not, I'm not overtly thinking these negative things. And so it would cause me like to feel a little bit of just like tired or mild anxiousness, or just like, you know. So I think I uncovered what that was. So this experience led me to realize that there have been a lot of subconscious negative thoughts that were still lingering in my mind. And when I went on this huge, like my first ever sort of positive mindset journey a couple years ago, I'm so weird about that word, but like when I focused heavily on my mindset a couple years ago, I made drastic changes, and I thought that, I had eradicated most of my negative thinking, but it turns out that a lot of it has been buried in my subconscious mind. And so I feel like I was led again to go back to those things. Like I mentioned Florence Scovel Shinn and some other audiobooks that, and authors of audiobooks that I listened to a couple years ago. The first time I just paused and like focused heavily on my mindset. So I got back to that sort of stuff and realized that my subconscious mind was overflowing with these negative thoughts. And I think some of them may have been left over from the first time I focused on my mindset and just like didn't, let's say, sweep out everything that was negative. And then I feel like what I've been watching on YouTube, TV, I'm not like a huge TV watcher, but I will watch like a lot of YouTube or have it running in the background when I'm doing other things. And I have been watching a lot of like more dramatic type stuff, like gossipy or like whatever, like some creative skits, but they were like centered on like dramatic storylines and things like that. And just like people having all sorts of conflicts with other people online and that sort of thing. And I feel like that probably deposited negativity in my subconscious mind somehow. It's the only thing I can really think of, other than just not having, eliminated everything negative the first time I did my heavy, intensive focused on mindset, which is, possible. Like, I don't know that I went into it thinking that I would be perfect in eliminating all that stuff, but I came out of that leaps and bounds better. And so I think I'm going through like round 2 of that. And instead of just focusing on my conscious thoughts, which I believe I did more of the first time, I'm focusing more on my subconscious mind. And literally the next day of just like focusing on positive affirmations, challenging the way I think, really paying attention to how my subconscious thoughts react to different things, different stimuli, I felt so much better just 24 hours later. And I feel like a lot of the negativity was alleviated. I felt lighter. And in real time, I could watch myself and monitor my mindset more and, arrest those thoughts and debunk them, get rid of them. Now I'm like, sort of like actively speaking positive thoughts into my subconscious mind. Not just eliminating the negative, but overflowing it with positive, actively speaking things, speaking my positive affirmations and goals over my life out loud. So I had stopped doing that. That's something that I did start doing the first time I had this heavy focus on mindset. So I'm back to doing that. And last week was so intense with all of that stuff, just like really dissecting where the thoughts come from, like what my subconscious mind thinks, and bringing it onto one accord with my conscious mind and just spiritual alignment with God and what's of the kingdom of God. And so that is where I've been. I've just been so tired because for me, that takes a lot of focus. I'm also like a very like, okay, if there's a problem, I'm solutions oriented, like dedicated to, making the situation better. And so like, I've just been intensely focusing on that again. And so I'm looking forward to seeing the outcome and how much this is going to improve my life and what I see in my life. So getting back to my original question, have you ever felt like you had the same repetitive problem coming up, like you're okay, and then the problem comes up, and then you're okay, and then the problem comes up in a different format? So I've been focusing on this as a way to sort of, address that. And I did realize that I still need to be assertive in like the way I do business even further. So taking things a step further. And this time with that person, I insisted on being paid for my inconvenience, and I got paid for that. So that helped. We'll see how that, I'm expecting the best for myself. So we're going to see how that business relationship, what happens like with that, because it's still kind of like that person now doesn't know where he stands with the third party. And so originally the project we were working on was going to continue. So, that's what I'm waiting to see. So that, yeah, and that's inconvenient as well, but you live and you learn, and I know how to do better, how to be more assertive. I'm learning assertiveness like bit by bit, step by step, going further and further. And I've come a long, long way. And so I feel like this has been, it's led me to address the underlying cause of the anxiety that I have been experiencing. And I feel much less of it. I feel much more joyful. And I'm not nearly as stressed out as I have been, as I said before, as I have been on occasions past and years past when something like this situation arises. So I'm going through the situation without fear. For me now, the feeling, the emotion is more frustration than anything else. It's not fear, whereas I would have been freaking out, way more. I freaked out more last month when this situation with the business thing started compared to now with, still not knowing when the project resumes, this and that. So, yeah, basically, I've just been working on my mindset. I feel like it's super helpful if you are going through like this problem that seems to pop up and you see a pattern. Look at your subconscious mind, because what they say, I think, is true, that you can project these things into your life if you have it somewhere in your mindset. And that's even, for me, it's been like looking at how I respond to things. Like, look at how, so for me, I know the first time with the big situation, I keep calling it big. It's not that big. It's behind me now. But it was like pivotal. It was like, it really prompted me to focus on what I think and how I have been the common denominator in like a lot of stuff that went on that year, business wise, for the most part. Back then, I looked at how I had so much fear, and I was doing really well, and I was afraid of losing it. Or my definition of really well back then, it's changed, gotten better, thankfully, but I was doing well, certainly like really well compared to how I had been doing before, taking the business to a new height. And I was like afraid. I was operating from a place of fear, like, well, what if I make the wrong decision? What if something happens and I lose it all? I was overly cautious. I did things out of kind of like desperation, like I have to make these people in this contract happy, so I shouldn't like look at, I paid too much for certain things because I was just like focused on like bending over backward for the other party in that contract, and learned a lot from that. Fast forward to now, and I had to look at, again, like how I respond to situations. So back then, like, I think back then I thought about like things as simple as how you feel when you're paying bills. So I've heard that and I agree that you should actually be joyful when you're paying bills, because that means you have the money to pay the bills. And so that plants a seed of gratitude and joy and gratefulness and expectation that you'll have, and you'll have enough, and you'll be able to keep paying your bills and, stay on top of things and prosper, and money will keep flowing to you. And so I've just been like looking at things that I've been approaching with a sense of fear and like working on not doing that anymore. And I'm so glad that all of this came to my attention now, because, as I mentioned before, I'm working on some new projects and things, expanding in some ways and expecting to do really, really well. And so I don't want the fear holding me back. I don't want the fear, I don't want to be afraid of losing it all. And I don't want to be like subconsciously afraid of just like whatever I've been, like the fear. I don't want it anymore. And so this has forced me to address that and look at even subtle, like underlying ways that fear, at some point crept into my subconscious mind. And like, like I don't even want to I definitely don't want to gravitate toward, but don't want to, like, as far as content I consume, I don't want to like watch things that are about people experiencing discord or lack or poverty. Not, I don't mean that in an elitist way, but like if I'm watching something for entertainment, like I've cut out things where like poverty is in the storyline, because like I don't want that planted in my subconscious mind. So, much less my conscious mind. Yeah, I've just been surrounding myself with abundance and enjoying where I am now and being grateful and thinking the best and expecting the best and hoping for the best. And I finally got a little more energy to make a video. And so that's what I've been doing, what I've been focusing on all last week. So I said this was going to be a short video. It's actually pretty late. I'm going to try to get to bed at a quasi reasonable hour. It's like after 2 a.m. My sleep pattern has been so strange. Really good news. I lost some more weight. My skin is like so broken out right now. And I think it's because my insulin levels are like normalizing from not eating sugar and cutting out grains for the most part. Now, I did have popcorn. That's a grain technically, but no like bread type of stuff. Haven't been doing, well, I was just about to say I haven't been doing corn. Apart from popcorn, which I actually don't do very often, and I love popcorn, but I cut it out for the most part. Treated myself to some today. I came back down in weight to where I'm at my pre-COVID weight for sure, I think. I'm like 2 pounds. So like I divide sort of my weight eras, let's say, into different, groups or whatever. And I am 2 pounds away from the weight that I was at when I first started going to the gym right before COVID, or let's say a year before COVID, which kind of sounds backward. Like, why would you want to be at your weight before you started to go to the gym? Well, after that, COVID came. I was like really like eating all types of high carbs and not exercising and things like that. And I put weight on after that. And then I started doing like intensive exercise, but I had so much inflammation and like my muscles were like being overworked in certain ways. And so like there, along with that came a lot of fluid retention. So my weight was what I would call sky high, way higher than I needed to be, even though I was very active and looked relatively fit. Although what bothered me, like I really needed to lose weight around my midsection. So that's why I say I'm glad to be back at my weight that I was at before I started going to the gym before the pandemic. So yeah, 2 pounds away from that as of this morning, probably, like a pound away, maybe even right at it. We'll see tomorrow, because I just feel like I've lost some pounds. I didn't really eat a whole lot today, not intentionally, but just like, whatever, wasn't that hungry. So yeah, we'll see where my weight is tomorrow. I think the changes in insulin and all that and hormones and whatnot, along with weight loss, is causing my skin to break out really badly. So we're just getting through that. And my stomach is flat again. Now, I don't have abs, but I do still see, there's like a little bit of like, I can see like a minuscule amount of fluid retention, maybe like some fat cells, let's call it. I don't know what to call it. Like, what like fat looks like or whatever. But so in other words, my stomach isn't toned yet. A lot of like the fat that was like there, the skin fat, and I had a little bit more than skin fat before, but like lately it was just kind of like subcutaneous fat, and that is now mostly gone. I showed my midriff. I wore a midriff top out around for a whole day for the first time in like, I don't know, decades probably. And I'm very excited about that. So I'm focusing on like positive goals I'm achieving, expecting the best with this situation. I'm sure it happened to draw me to focus on my mindset and discover like the false beliefs that I had going on in my subconscious mind, the stuff that was just like not helpful, the negative talk and all that stuff, the fear, the anxiety. And I feel like a huge weight has been lifted, and still working through like a little bit of a tiny bit of it, but leaps and bounds better. And that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna see you in the next video. Pardon the way that I'm just like, whatever. I'm like getting ready for bed. I'm gonna take a bubble bath and then go to bed. So this is me just like, without much prep work coming on camera. So I will see you in the next video. Hopefully I will record Saturday. Today is Thursday, but we'll see. And that's it for now. So till I see you again in the next video, take care, be well, and see you soon. Bye.